Greetings to my fellow Reds. Well, the season hasn't gotten off to a very good start. A fairly lucky victory against Leicester, an atrocious performance last week against Brighton, and we were hoping to put matters right against Spurs. Now, Spurs at Old Trafford traditionally is 3 points. We've really hammered them over the last several seasons, albeit sometimes by narrowest of margins in terms of the victories. But this was a different kettle of fish. This is a different Spurs team. They're an excellent side, excellent squad, on the back of United playing some pretty poor football. So we were hoping for a massively improved performance, and of course we were hoping for 3 points. Well, the old cliche, football's a game at two halves. And at half-time, things looked absolutely rosy. Quite frankly, we absolutely clattered them in the first half. They didn't really have a meaningful chance, with the exception of, I feel, a penalty that they should have been awarded when the donkey Phil Jones committed a foul in the penalty box, but a little bit more of that later. We were hoping for a more fluid attacking United team, and certainly Jose rang in the changes and changed the formation. It was quite a strange formation and quite difficult to make it out at the beginning of the game, but it was really a 3-5-2 that he started with. De Gea in goals, at the back under Herrera playing as a defender, with Smalling and Jones, the two alongside him. Two wing-backs. I was delighted that Luke Shaw retained his place. Antonio Valencia returned to the team in the right-back position. The three slung across midfield: Fred, the returning Matic, and Paul Pogba. And up front, Lukaku regaining his place in the team, and Jesse Headless Chicken Lingard playing up front. Well, in truth, in the first half, United were absolutely terrific. There was a good chance as early as the second minute when Fred, on his weaker right foot, put it into the side netting. And then, of course, that golden opportunity, Lukaku, from a bit of an angle, faced with an open goal. But in all fairness, an alleged world-class striker, he should have buried that. And you know the old adage, if you don't take your chances, you're made to pay the price. Quite frankly, United should have gone in at half-time a couple of goals to the good. We went in on parity, but really a good performance in the first half. What caused us some concern was when looking at the defence, under Herrera got caught out of position quite a few times. In his defence, he's not a defender. He may be called a defensive midfielder. In fact, when we bought him, he was a box-to-box midfielder, but he's never quite fulfilled that role at United. So the 3-5-2, and some of the pundits in the know have suggested that at half-time, given how Herrera was caught out of position on so many occasions, United should have reverted to 4 at the back, with Smalling and Jones, the centre-backs, Valencia and Shaw, the full-backs, and pushing Valencia into a midfield and then having 3 up front. Well, it wasn't to be. And 5 minutes into the second half, of course, you know, Harry Kane rose. Phil Jones failed to rise with him, and Kane nodded home quite sweetly for the opening goal. Now, again, one of the lessons in football that we were taught in primary school: when you concede, make sure you don't concede another one rapidly thereafter. And lo and behold, we did. Kane's goal came from Spurs' first corner of the game. One thing that I cannot fathom is why not put players on the posts when you're defending corners. Don't understand that. Had there been a man on the near post, that goal would not have counted because it wouldn't have gone in. But that was not to be. Their second goal, a litany of errors. Unfortunately, Luke Shaw somewhat out of position, but Chris Smalling looking for an offside. What he didn't look at was Herrera was 2 meters behind him playing Spurs onsides, and Lucas Moura got the second goal. Well, 2 down, it was always going to be an absolute struggle. The second half, we were absolutely atrocious. No really meaningful chances, and not surprisingly, Spurs scored their third goal on the break Moura one-on-one with Chris Smalling. Smalling went to ground way too easily. He waltzed past him and smashed in the third. So at the end of the evening, when one looked at the scoreline, we got an absolute hammering. Did Spurs deserve the victory? Well, I suppose we die-hard United fans will say we didn't get the rub of the green, but quite frankly, the second half performance was not good enough. Spurs played classic counter-attacking football. They're an excellent side, took their chances, and I can have no qualm with the results. What disappoints me a little bit is that a lot of United fans are extolling the virtues of the team, saying we played magnificently on the night. Well, we played very well in the first half. But are you playing magnificently when there is such profligacy in front of goal? I don't think you can say that. And the second half, we really were very, very poor. But certainly the first half performance, we must take some encouragement from that. And hopefully, moving forward, we will be able to improve and start getting some more points on the board. Now, we'll go through the individual performances. David De Gea, I don't think you can fault him for any of the goals. And in fact, he pulled off a couple of good saves that could have, had he not done so, the scoreline would have been even more embarrassing. Under Herrera in this sort of fullback position was an unmitigated disaster. He gets booked every game. He's rash in the tackle. He was caught out of position on numerous occasions. Not good enough. As for the pair of Smalling and Jones, well, those of you who do take the trouble to listen to my comments after games will know that these guys are not my favourites. I cannot fathom. Smalling has been at the club for 9 seasons. Jones has been at the club. This is his 8th season. I'm amazed that the pair of them are still at the club. And it's little wonder that Jose wanted replacement centre-backs. And there's no doubt in my mind he wanted the replacement centre-backs for Smalling and Jones. Not for Lindelof and Bailly, but more about Lindelof a little bit later. So they were absolutely useless. Jones went off again with a hamstring injury. Hopefully he'll be out for a lengthy time. I don't wish him any ill, but I would be very happy not to see him restored to the team at any stage. He's an accident waiting to happen. He makes mistakes every single game and was lucky to get away with not giving away a penalty in the first half. And of course, fresh in our minds is the penalty he gave away in the FA Cup final. He's clumsy, he's rash in the tackle. Smalling, just not good enough. Couple of good clearances, but every game he's good for an error, and he was at fault for the third goal. In the second goal, he thought that he'd sprung the offside trap. He didn't look around him, and just really not good enough. The midfielders, Fred looked excellent in the first half. He was busy, he was up and down the field. He's not scared to get stuck in. Quite a few rash tackles as well. We're going to find him getting quite a few cards. But second half, he was pretty anonymous. Nemanja Matic, back from surgery. He looked rusty. Not one of his best games, but he is a player that would be an automatic selection for me. Paul Pogba, another poor performance. Given the formation, I would have thought that he had a license to roam, to impose himself on the game. He lingers too long in possession on numerous occasions, gets caught in possession, languid, looks completely uninterested. Not sure what's going on there, but I have to say I'm losing my patience with him. So-called world-class player. We get a decent performance from him every 5 or 6 games, and if he were to move on, it really wouldn't disappoint me at all. Jesse Lingard, you know fully well what my thoughts are with respect to him, runs around with boundless energy, doing very little. Poor in front of goal, poor decision-making, and for me, I would not start him in the lineup. Lukaku looked absolutely rusty on the night, should have taken the goal in the first half, and that would have changed the complexion of the game. Substitutions. We saw Victor Lindelof coming on for the injured Phil Jones, and what a disaster. He almost gifted Harry Kane a header. Kane should have scored from a header from a corner when Lindelof fell over. There was another incident where he put in a really poor back pass where De Gea needed to come to his rescue. And based on current evidence, he's just not good enough for this team. Fellaini came on as a substitute. In truth, he did okay. Not much wrong with what he did, held the ball up well, and it won't surprise me to see him starting against Burnley on the weekend, which is our next game. But of course, all the focus at the moment is on United and what a disastrous start to the season. Well, I'm getting sick and tired of the press over there. Clearly, they have an agenda against United. Clearly, they have an intense dislike of Jose Mourinho. And of course, he was at his best or worst, however you want to put it, at the end of the game at his press conference. I really do think that he's being treated with quite a bit of disrespect. You may argue that he's brought some of it upon himself. Certainly his behaviour when he was at Chelsea with that debacle with the club doctor Eva Carneiro didn't win him many friends. But he's really being targeted, I think, unfairly by the press. Now, if you look at the start to the season, the doomsday prophecies, the long knives are out. First 3 games, we've only got 3 points. Well, cast your mind back to the 92-93 season when we were champions. First game, we lost to Sheffield United. Second game, we lost 3-0 at home to Everton. Third game, we got a draw against Ipswich Town, 1 point from the first 3 games. So to start saying that this is a disaster and it's the worst season ever is actually a load of bullshit. And it really sells stories. If you look at how the season started, there have really been fantastic starts by our noisy neighbours Man City, by Liverpool, by Chelsea, by Spurs, even by Watford. 3 wins out of 3 for those clubs. Yet it's only United who are in the news. And why is that? Because United sell newspapers. And I found this really disappointing. There's a lot of debate going on. Has Mourinho lost the dressing room? Are the board not supporting him? Is Ed Woodward at fault for the crisis of the club? Well, cast your mind back to the beginning of the year. Jose Mourinho was given an extended contract. So obviously the board had placed faith in him. Well, when you place faith in the manager, surely you've got to go along with what his requests are. We know that Jose is a chap who likes a quick fix. And it's said that he was really wanting to offload Anthony Martial, who looks completely uninterested, in favour of replacing him with Willian, a 29-year-old replacing a 22-year-old. I would have taken Willian in a heartbeat, and even quicker I would have offloaded Martial because of his poor attitude. Yet it's said that Ed Woodward is pulling the purse strings behind the scenes, so we're really uncertain about that. Just flashing back to the game, the one player I omitted was Alexis Sanchez came on as a substitute after recent injury, and I guess he'll be retained for the game against Burnley. As a fan, I was impressed with Mourinho at the end of the game, pausing by the Stretford end, clapping them, and United weren't booed off the field, unlike what would happen at many of our classless opponents. As fans, we've got to stick behind the team, behind the manager. We're diehard supporters. We want to keep the red flag flying high. And people have got relatively short memories. I've been a United supporter for some 5 decades. There have been much darker times. We faced relegation in the mid-1970s. So things have been much tougher in years gone by. We're 3 games into the season. We've got a pretty solid squad, but we seem to be lacking in the department that Jose was looking to strengthen, namely defence centre-back. Yet one asks oneself, last season, United were the second best team defensively in the league. It was only Man City who conceded 1 goal fewer than United did. With the same personnel, mainly Ashley Young at left back, but with the donkeys Smalling and Jones, with a smattering of the other centre-backs, and Antonio Valencia at right back. How did we do it? Why are we leaking goals now? Is it because the other teams are stronger? Is it because we've lost our mojo? I don't know. But what does concern me is that there's absolutely no leadership on the field. Valencia is the captain. The guy doesn't speak English. How does he communicate with the rest of the team? There's nobody marshalling the defence. And what one really needs is you need a tough, experienced centre-back. Alderweireld for me would have been the ideal choice, and put a guy like Bailly next to him. The older, experienced guy nurturing the younger guy, coaching him through difficult times in certain games. Going forward, are we going to see the same centre-back pairing? Well, Jones we're not going to see. So, Jones, every time he gets an injury, is out for 3 or 4 months. Will Smalling be retained? Will Marcus Rojo get back into the team because he's coming back from injury? Rojo, Smalling, Jones, it's like asking, would you like death by firing squad or electric chair? I'm not sure which of those are the worst. I'd like to offload all 3 of them. So yes, we need some reinforcements at the back. One watches Tim Fosu-Mensah turning it on last season on loan at Crystal Palace, this season on loan at Fulham. Not sure why he couldn't have been retained and play a role in defence, but certainly reinforcements needed in that area. We're already being linked with a multitude of players for the January transfer window. I would imagine between now and January we'll be linked with at least 200 players that are coming to United. We shall see. For me as a United fan, difficult times, yes, because we've put in a couple of bad performances. Encouraging first half performance against Spurs, poor second half performance. But hey, let's get behind the team and let's hope for an improved performance against Burnley on the weekend. I look forward to speaking to you then, hopefully with a better result. And Champions League draw tomorrow. Be interesting to see who we get paired with. An important tournament for us, and certainly we want to progress in that. I'd appreciate any postings. I have no doubt that the Spurs supporters like Pima and Joseph, guys who in recent seasons have been behind their team, but the Spurs supporters are creeping out the woodwork in their absolute droves. So go on, have a go at us. But one thing one should always remember, Man United, greatest club in the world. We stand behind them. We'll keep the red flag flying high. Take care and enjoy the rest of the week. Cheers.